In the autumn of 2008, a relatively unknown British designer walked into the historic headquarters of Celine on Rue Vivienne in Paris, carrying with her a vision so radical it would reshape not just one struggling fashion house, but the entire landscape of contemporary luxury for the next decade. Phoebe Philo, fresh from her transformative tenure at Chloe and a 3-year hiatus raising her children, arrived at a moment when fashion seemed trapped between maximalist excess and derivative copying, searching desperately for a new language of desire. What she created during her 9 extraordinary years at Celine became nothing less than a manifesto, a complete reimagining of what sophisticated women wanted to wear, buy, and ultimately, who they wanted to become. Before Phoebe Philo's arrival, Celine existed as a respectable but unremarkable French leather goods house within the LVMH portfolio, known primarily for conservative handbags favored by an older clientele. The brand possessed heritage dating back to 1945 when Celine Vipiana opened a children's shoe boutique, but lacked the cultural cachet of sister brands like Louis Vuitton or Dior. Previous creative directors had attempted various strategies to revitalize the house, but none achieved the breakthrough that would transform Celine into the most influential fashion brand of the 2010s. Bernard Arnault, chairman of LVMH, took an extraordinary gamble hiring Philo, granting her unprecedented creative freedom and the resources necessary to realize her uncompromising vision. The Phoebe Philo era at Celine officially began with her debut collection for Spring-Summer 2010, presented in a decidedly unconventional manner that signaled the revolution to come. Rather than the theatrical runway spectacles typical of Paris Fashion Week, Philo showed her collection in an intimate presentation at the brand's boutique, with models walking slowly through carefully composed spaces. The clothing itself shocked the fashion establishment: loose silhouettes in luxurious fabrics, architectural shapes that draped and folded around the body rather than constricting it, and a color palette dominated by navy, gray, camel, and white with occasional shots of cobalt blue or burnt orange. Critics initially struggled to comprehend what they were witnessing, as the collection rejected every trend then dominating runways: no overt sexuality, no obvious branding, no desperate attempts to appear youthful or edgy. If you appreciate discovering the visionary designers who transformed fashion history and defined new aesthetic movements, consider subscribing and activating the notification bell to support our channel's exploration of style, creativity, and cultural impact. Your engagement helps us continue bringing these stories of innovation and artistic vision to life. Understanding the design philosophy that Phoebe Philo brought to Celine requires examining her personal history and the cultural moment she was addressing. Having worked under Stella McCartney at Chloe and experienced the demands of balancing creative work with motherhood, Philo understood viscerally what was missing from contemporary fashion. She recognized that successful, intelligent women needed clothing that reflected their actual lives, garments sophisticated enough for professional environments yet comfortable enough for the physical demands of modern existence. The Phoebe Philo woman, as she became known in fashion circles, was intellectually curious, professionally accomplished, and entirely uninterested in dressing to please male attention or conform to conventional femininity. The concept of minimalism as practiced at Celine under Philo transcended simple aesthetic reduction to become a complete philosophy of luxury and desire. Her collections featured complex construction hidden within apparently simple silhouettes, where a seemingly basic navy wool coat might contain hours of intricate pattern making to achieve its perfect proportions and effortless drape. Fabrics received obsessive attention, with Philo demanding the finest cashmeres, wools, silks, and leathers, often in custom colors developed specifically for Celine that became instantly recognizable to devoted followers. The famous Celine Grey, a particular shade appearing across multiple seasons, achieved cult status among fashion insiders, representing sophistication impossible to articulate but immediately apparent to those who understood. Handbags under Phoebe Philo became cultural phenomena that transcended mere accessories to achieve the status of modern art objects and investment pieces. The Celine Luggage Tote, introduced in 2010, featured a distinctive front zipper and wing-like sides that created an architectural silhouette unlike anything else in the market. Despite prices starting around $2,500 and rising to $5,000 for exotic skin versions, demand so exceeded supply that waiting lists stretched months and secondary market prices soared. The Trapeze Bag, Box Bag, Trio Crossbody, and Belt Bag each became instant classics, recognizable not through logos but through distinctive shapes and proportions that signaled insider knowledge. The runway shows during the Philo era achieved legendary status, not through spectacle but through their ability to articulate a complete worldview in 12 minutes of carefully choreographed presentation. Each season, Philo constructed environments that felt simultaneously art installation and intimate revelation, with models cast to represent diverse ages, ethnicities, and body types rarely seen on high-fashion runways. The Fall-Winter 2011 show, staged in a stark white space with models wearing heavy knits, architectural coats, and those now iconic Celine furry slides, crystallized the aesthetic that would dominate the decade. Fashion editors left these presentations feeling they had witnessed something approaching religious experience, a clarity of vision so complete it seemed to render all other fashion temporarily irrelevant. Footwear design under Philo revolutionized how luxury brands approached shoes, rejecting the vertiginous heels dominating the industry in favor of walkable, architecturally interesting alternatives. The Celine pointed flat, with its distinctive elongated toe and minimalist leather upper, became the unofficial uniform of creative professionals worldwide, copied endlessly but never successfully replicated. Even when Philo designed heels, they featured substantial block constructions or architectural wedges that prioritized wearability without sacrificing visual interest or sophistication. This approach reflected her broader philosophy that luxury should enhance rather than constrain women's lives, that beauty need not require physical discomfort or impracticality. The role of accessories beyond handbags demonstrated Philo's comprehensive approach to building a complete luxury universe. Sunglasses became major business for Celine under her direction, with oversized acetate frames in distinctive shapes that photographed dramatically and became instantly recognizable on city streets worldwide. Jewelry remained minimal, often just substantial gold or silver cuffs and hoops that complemented rather than competed with clothing, allowing the garments and the woman wearing them to remain the focus. Even belts achieved significance through distinctive hardware and proportions, with the Celine knot belt becoming another cult object commanding premium prices in resale markets long after its initial seasons. The concept of seasonless dressing emerged as a Phoebe Philo innovation, with collections that built upon rather than completely abandoning previous seasons. Devoted customers could assemble wardrobes where pieces from multiple years worked harmoniously together, creating a consistent aesthetic that transcended temporary trends. This approach proved revolutionary in an industry built on planned obsolescence, where fashion houses traditionally encouraged consumers to view previous seasons as instantly outdated. Philo understood that sophisticated women wanted to invest in clothing that would remain relevant and beautiful for decades, not just until the next collection arrived in stores. The cultural impact of Phoebe Philo's Celine extended far beyond fashion into broader conversations about femininity, power, and professional identity. Her designs became uniform for a generation of women in creative industries, from editors and curators to architects and entrepreneurs, who found in Celine the perfect expression of their values and ambitions. The Phoebe Philo aesthetic influenced everything from interior design to graphic design, with the spare sophistication she championed appearing across cultural production throughout the 2010s. Even brands with vastly different design philosophies felt compelled to incorporate elements of her minimalist approach, creating diffusion versions that brought her innovations to broader markets. Understanding the business transformation Philo achieved at Celine reveals the commercial viability of her seemingly niche aesthetic vision. When she arrived, Celine generated approximately €200 million in annual revenue, a respectable but unremarkable figure within the LVMH portfolio. By the time she departed in 2017, annual revenues had grown to approximately €1 billion, a five-fold increase representing one of the most successful brand transformations in modern luxury history. This growth came despite, or perhaps because of, Philo's refusal to compromise her vision, to add logos, to chase younger consumers, or to embrace social media marketing in ways she felt cheapened the brand. The photography and creative direction surrounding Celine under Philo deserves examination as integral to the brand's success and cultural impact. She collaborated with photographers like Jürgen Teller and Daria Werboe, creating advertising campaigns that felt more like art photography than conventional luxury marketing. These images often featured models in unexpected contexts, shot with deliberately unglamorous lighting that emphasized texture, form, and a certain intellectual seriousness absent from typical fashion advertising. The Celine aesthetic extended to boutique design, with stores featuring minimal interventions, terrazzo flooring, and carefully considered details that created environments where the clothing could breathe and be appreciated properly. The challenge of defining minimalism in the context of Philo's Celine requires distinguishing her approach from earlier minimalist movements in fashion. While designers like Jill Sander and Helmut Lang had explored reduction in previous decades, Philo's minimalism incorporated more color, texture, and architectural complexity than their austere precedents. Her work balanced intellectual rigor with sensual pleasure, creating garments that felt simultaneously cerebral and deeply physical, that looked severe in photographs but revealed warmth and humanity when encountered in person. This nuanced approach to minimalism, neither cold nor overly earnest, achieved a sophistication that resonated with women seeking alternatives to both maximalist excess and punishing austerity. The signature pieces that defined the Philo era at Celine each demonstrate her particular genius for creating objects that feel simultaneously innovative and timeless. The Celine Cabas Tote, a simple canvas and leather bag, became cult object through perfect proportions and quality of materials, selling for approximately $1,200 yet commanding double that in secondary markets. The boxy blazer with its dropped shoulders and easy fit revolutionized how tailoring could work for women's bodies, rejecting the constricting structure of traditional suiting. The Celine knit with its distinctive color blocking and relaxed silhouette appeared on Fashion Insiders so frequently it became almost a cliché, the uniform signaling membership in a particular aesthetic tribe. Understanding Philo's approach to color reveals another dimension of her sophisticated minimalism, as her palettes carefully balanced neutrals with strategic injections of vibrant hues. Her collections featured what devotees called Celine colors, particular shades of yellow, blue, red, and green that appeared nowhere else in fashion, custom-developed and instantly recognizable. These colors never felt arbitrary or trend-driven but rather essential expressions of each season's particular mood and message, deployed strategically to create visual interest within predominantly neutral compositions. The way Philo used color influenced an entire generation of designers who learned that minimalism need not mean monotony, that restraint could coexist with chromatic boldness. The departure of Phoebe Philo from Celine in January 2018 sent shockwaves through the fashion industry and created genuine grief among devoted followers. Her final collection, Fall-Winter 2018, shown in March 2017, achieved poignancy as fans recognized they were witnessing the conclusion of an extraordinary era. The collection featured all the signatures that had defined her tenure: impeccable tailoring, luxurious knitwear, architectural bags, and that ineffable sense of sophisticated ease that was her particular genius. LVMH announced that Hedi Slimane would succeed Philo, a choice that signaled a complete directional change and effectively ended the aesthetic universe she had created. The legacy of Phoebe Philo's tenure at Celine continues reverberating through fashion years after her departure, with her influence visible across countless brands and designers. The secondary market for Celine pieces from her era remains extraordinarily robust, with certain bags, coats, and signature pieces commanding prices at or above their original retail despite being seasons or years old. Fashion insiders speak of pre-Slimane Celine or Old Celine to distinguish pieces from the Philo era, treating them as distinct from what came after, almost as if they represent a different brand entirely. Multiple designers who worked under Philo have gone on to creative director positions elsewhere, spreading her aesthetic and philosophical approach throughout the industry. The question of why Phoebe Philo's Celine resonated so profoundly invites analysis of broader cultural shifts occurring during her tenure. Her 9 years at the brand coincided with women achieving unprecedented professional success and economic power, creating a sophisticated consumer base seeking fashion that reflected their actual lives and values. The rise of social media paradoxically created desire for clothing that photographed well but didn't scream for attention, that signaled taste and knowledge to those capable of recognizing quality. Philo offered an alternative to both the obvious luxury of logo-driven brands and the studied casualness of streetwear, creating a third path that felt simultaneously intellectual and sensual, powerful and approachable. As we reflect on the Phoebe Philo era at Celine, what becomes clear is that she achieved something exceedingly rare in fashion: a complete and coherent vision executed with uncompromising integrity over nearly a decade. She proved that sophisticated minimalism could drive extraordinary commercial success, that refusing to compromise could paradoxically create broader cultural impact than cynical market chasing. The Celine she created existed as more than a fashion brand; it became a philosophy, a worldview, and a template for how modern women might move through the world with confidence, intelligence, and style that whispered rather than shouted its sophistication. Her legacy endures not just in the countless pieces still worn and treasured by devoted followers, but in the fundamental shift she created in how we understand luxury, desire, and the relationship between fashion and the lives of accomplished contemporary women.